Hello and welcome back. My name is Clocky, and this is my podcast, Nobody Listens to Me Anyway. And today's episode is about nobody listening to the call for help. This is going to be a very triggering episode, so if domestic violence, domestic abuse, talks of self-harm, rape, threats to bodily harm, and threats to others will affect you, or possible vulgar language, maybe skip this episode. But this is a topic that I've only spoken on lightly before, and I've spoken about it privately to friends, but I think now is a good time to get out what I went through and to help other people. This was recently brought back up to me. I was lucky enough to survive my experiences, and it was recently brought back up as a friend of mine is going through the very same thing at this moment, and I'm trying to help them through it. And I think speaking to her about how she felt alone and talking to me helped her realize that she's not the only one going through this. Maybe it's time to let my story get out, and so that other people know that they're not by themselves. There's a lot of people going through what you're going through and experiencing what you're going through, and I think more people need to help grow the awareness that is not publicly out there, especially because it's so scary to speak up, because honestly, everyone just victim blames and puts it all on you when you are the victim and you are not at fault for anything that's happening, and you need to know that you're not alone. As always, I am going to have all of my social medias tagged below if you want to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, my Discord I'm very active in, and my YouTube channel, as well as Twitch. But without further ado, let's get right into the episode. So why am I talking about this really intense topic right now? It's time. It's time to let people know what I went through. I struggled through this all by myself, and I thought I was alone, and I honestly thought it was normal to go through basically domestic abuse. I thought that's what relationships were like. I'd never really been close enough with somebody to experience or talk to them about how their relationships worked or what they went through, because I just felt it was too personal to ask. So I just thought being yelled at and being abused was normal, and we were just gonna get through it, and I would just tolerate it for the rest of my life, and it would be fine because this is what love was like. But I, at the time, was very lucky enough to have met a friend who showed me that a relationship doesn't have to be abusive. Your partner is supposed to support you, is supposed to help you grow, is supposed to be kind to you and help you experience the things that you want to experience, and they're supposed to show interest in your interests and passions. But I thought being controlled was normal. And like I said, a few close friends of mine have been going through this same life scenario, and that's why I really wanted to bring it up. So I'm going to be talking about my experiences with domestic violence, domestic abuse, while dating a narcissistic abuser. What is a narcissistic abuser? A narcissistic abuser is someone who, when you first meet them, they come off as charming, they're fun, they seem to make you feel like you are a princess, you're living a fairy tale. This is everything you could have ever imagined. They like everything you like, they're there for you, they compliment you all the time, they'll love bomb you, which is a very scary thing. So they'll give you presents, they'll buy you dinners, they'll show up with flowers. They just really make you feel like you are living the dream. You're like, this is it, this is the one. And they'll mention it to you. They'll say, like, you are the one, you're the one I've been waiting for. They make you feel like the luckiest person alive. And that's how it starts. But as you get to know them and spend more time with them, you notice that maybe they tend to hog conversations a bit more. They make everything about them. And if you start talking about something you're interested in, as for me, it was gaming, streaming, and cosplaying, and just anime, anything nerdy and out there, they would appear disinterested. They would look away. They would be on their phone. They have a glaze over their eyes, like they're really not paying attention to you until the conversation comes back to them and they can start talking about what they did today and what they want to do with life and where they want to go. Because what you say doesn't actually matter. It's all about them. If you ever talk about your feelings, especially feeling sad or unhappy, they just kind of push it off. They're just like, you'll be fine. You'll get through it. You'll get over it. They don't really try to be there for you. They just ignore it. A narcissistic abuser also tends to constantly require compliments. So they'll feed off of you telling them that they did a good job, that they are working really hard, and that you're really proud of them. And if you don't compliment them enough, they will start to crack, and they'll take it out on you, and they'll lash out on you. They tend to lack empathy, so they'll never make you feel seen, they'll never understand, and they tend to make you feel like you're crazy. So if you're feeling sad about anything and you bring it up to them, they're just like, why would you feel sad? Like, we're doing fine. We went out to dinner yesterday. Why are you acting like this? And it's very pushed on you. And you feel like, oh, maybe I am a bit too sensitive. Maybe I am wrong. Sorry, this is my bad. And now you're apologizing for things that you shouldn't be apologizing for. And that's where the gaslighting starts. They'll blame you when it's them at fault. Yeah, no, you're not without fault. Sure, I'm not a perfect person, and I know I did a lot of wrong things in my relationships as well, but the gaslighting still makes it feel like everything was your fault. Why are you acting like that? No, I would never say something like that. No, you are crazy. You're overreacting. You're so sensitive. Why would you even think of that? How could you say something like that? You feel like everything you do is wrong, and you're being so apologetic, and it's never, ever their fault. And if you finally start to crack and you realize that maybe this isn't right, a narcissistic abuser, if you try to leave them, they'll start tending to lash out. You'll pull away emotionally, and they'll know. They'll know you're not feeding them enough compliments, so they start to lash out. They'll scream at you until 3 a.m. They'll threaten you. They'll try to push you harder than they ever pushed before and be like, well, maybe it's because I'm a terrible person, isn't it? I'm the worst, and now I'm a bad boyfriend, and I've always been the wrong, right? It's all my fault. Now I'm on your time, I guess, huh? Right, Clocky? It's all about you now, isn't it? And they just make you the bad guy and lash out and scream at you. I dated 2 of these people back to back. The first one was a known cheater. He had cheated on me and told me about it. I was not in the right headspace, and I didn't quite understand the depths of trauma cheating can do to somebody. And he pulled me aside and told me that he accidentally slept with another girl. He slept over at his coworker's house, and he just happens to sleep naked. And even though she had a guest bedroom, he just chose to sleep in her same bed, and he just rolled over, and she was just accidentally naked as well. And it just happened, they just had sex. And he told me about it. And it broke me, it did. I ended up having several panic attacks that sent me into the ER and really, really messed me up. But I didn't leave him. I thought, it's okay if you cheat on me. I probably deserved it, right? Why wouldn't I deserve it? I'm not a good person, because they made me feel that way. So I said, yeah, it's okay if you cheat on me. I just hope that you don't do it again, and I will get over it, I'll forget about it one day, and it'll be like it never happened. So I chose to stay with this man for about a year and a half longer. And during that whole time, I suffered very intense health problems with anxiety, panic attacks. I went on medication at that time because I was so anxious about everything he was doing, how often he was lying to me, never knowing where he was, and also knowing that he was constantly now sleeping with other girls. I very easily figured out that that was not the first time he cheated on me, and it wasn't the last. I basically watched him cheat on me for the next year and a half while I just decided to stay with him because I loved him so much, and I would just deal with it for the rest of my life if he wanted to do that. It was fine, you know? I probably deserved to be cheated on, didn't I? Right? I'm sure I did. Or something. Eventually, I did get some sense into me and realized that no, I don't think I should be cheated on. I don't think this is how I'm supposed to be treated. And I did eventually leave him. That was after he stole a bunch of money from me and my dad, but that's a different conversation for another day. But I did eventually leave the narcissistic abuser cheater. And that was a tough thing for me to learn, is that you don't deserve to be cheated on. If somebody has a history of cheating or has cheated on you while you're in a relationship and you try to convince yourself, don't worry, I'll forget about it one day, I'll forgive you one day, you won't. You won't. Don't put yourself through the trauma of somebody lying to you, hurting you, and cheating on you. Cheating is not an accident. You don't accidentally fall into somebody else's private parts. It's not an accident. It is a full choice. And if somebody chooses someone else over you, you are worth so much more. And that person does not deserve you. It does not matter how long you've been together. Cheating is not an accident. It is a choice. It is not something all men, all women do. We don't cheat. And if you are known to be a cheater, get help. Get over yourself. You're not that special. All you're doing is hurting other people, and you are an abuser for being a cheater. My second boyfriend of these two that were abusing me back to back was more of a narcissistic abuser than the cheater. He basically, I had started talking to him while I was in college, and he was a nice guy. He was cute, and again, it felt like he was charming me. He was really interested in all of my interests. At that time, I started cosplaying. I was playing Destiny very often and doing raids and watching a lot of anime, and he was very supportive, and I was like, wow, this feels okay, and he likes what I like, and I'm gonna be all right. So, it started off with the love bombing and the kind gestures and the charming life. But honestly, I wish I had known about narcissistic abusers way earlier than I do now. Our relationship essentially started with him telling me he was going to kill himself if I didn't come over. So right off the start, I was afraid of him. And so I chose to date him. One night, this was during the time we were still in the getting to know each other talking phase, and I was out at a bar with a friend, and he was at home, and he was saying that I was choosing this other guy, which me and the abuser were not dating yet. I was choosing this other guy over him, And he made me feel bad, and he gave me anxiety, and he made me cry while I was at the bar, and he was yelling at me that I was like a cheater and I was just a bad person, and he threatened to kill himself because I was choosing someone else over him. So I quite honestly took off out of that bar and sprinted across my college town to his house to find him just, sitting in his room. Not actually planning on killing himself, but he just wanted to threaten me to get what he wanted. So from right off the start, I was terrified of feeling guilty that he was going to kill himself because of me. And that's how we started dating. He would use that threat on me for the next 2.5 years, regardless of what it was about. If I was too busy to come over, if I was playing video games, he was just going to kill himself because I was choosing video games over him. If I didn't offer to come to him or help him with anything that he needed, I was a bad person, and he would yell at me because he was incapable of doing anything for himself, so I had to help him. But if I needed help for something, he was too busy. He couldn't come over. It was on me. I could handle it. He doesn't have time for me. But I always had to make time for him. If I ever asked for time for myself, he would lash out. He would scream at me and was like, "No, I'm not on your time. I don't have time for these things. Why do you keep asking me to do these things, Clocky? Like, I'm busy. Why are you pushing me? You're so needy. You're constantly needing this." And I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe I'm just a really clingy girlfriend. I'm sorry. This is my fault. I shouldn't be asking you for attention or asking you to spend more time with me and not have your friends come or anything like that." If I was out with girlfriends, he would blame me and accuse me of being a cheater and say that you're probably out cheating on me. So now I'm gonna kill myself. And so I'd have to be on the phone and crying, and I never had fun those 2.5 years because I was constantly having panic attacks. I just didn't know what at the time. And he would use a lot of verbal language to degrade me. He would insult me. Eventually, it started to become degrading towards the things I liked. So at the beginning, he made it seem like he supported everything that I liked, the cosplaying, the gaming, the streaming. It made me feel like I was living in a fairy tale, and we had the same interests, and even if we didn't have some of the same interests, he was still going to support me. But eventually it was, and I quote, in regards to cosplaying, "I hate the stupid fucking shit that you do, and I hate your stupid fucking wigs." And so then I became embarrassed to cosplay, and I never wanted to wear my costumes. I almost deleted my Instagram account, and I was about to get rid of all of my stuff and throw it away because I was like, maybe I am weird and maybe I am stupid, so I should probably just get rid of it, right? I don't need it. It's really stupid. I should throw it away. I wasn't allowed to wear certain clothes. He would tell me if I wore certain things, if I went out with my friends, that I was a whore and I was a slut and I shouldn't wear that. So I started controlling what I would wear. And regardless of cosplay now my daily clothing was being controlled. But then he started taking it out on my streaming. If I wanted to make content or stream, I was spending more time with other boys on the internet and not spending enough time on him. And I was a slut, and I was a bitch, and I was a whore. And I shouldn't be putting myself on the internet like that. And so he would repeatedly make me feel bad for doing anything that I wanted to do. And I just about quit streaming as well because I was like, yeah, I guess I should only focus on him for the rest of my life. I should never have interests of my own. I'll just get rid of them. I don't need them, right? And now, because of all of the abuse that I was feeling, I didn't realize that it was abuse at the time. I thought it was just, this is how relationships are, and I'm a really bad girlfriend, and he's just helping me be a better girlfriend, and I'm overreacting and I'm too sensitive, so I'll just, listen to what he says because he probably knows better than me. What that does to somebody is tends to make them feel less attraction toward their partner without you realizing it. And so I started to have less sexual attraction to him, and therefore it affected our sex life. And this really got to him because he was a very sexual person, and he constantly wanted to have sex, and I did not. He would get angry with me if I didn't want to have sex with him. He would yell at me, he would call me names, or he would even just give me the silent treatment and not talk to me. So if he were to want sex and I say no, he would get mad and then just leave my house, or just roll over and say, well, I'm going to bed, and then not talk to me until the next day. Eventually it became more aggressive to the sense where he would threaten suicide if I didn't have sex with him. And he said, well, if we're not gonna have sex and we're in a relationship, then why are we even together if you're not interested in having sex with me? So I'm just gonna kill myself. And there were some nights where I would have to stop him from he wouldn't actually, but trying to jump out of my window or trying to run out of my house to go kill himself. And I would have to sleep in front of the door while he laid in my bed. And I would just watch him while he threatened to kill himself if I didn't have sex with him. Over that time, it gets to you, and you just start to have sexual consent via the guilt of your partner threatening to kill themselves. And so you consent via guilt, and that is actually a form of rape. It is considered intimate partner sexual assault, and that is rape. For 2.5 years, I mean, it wasn't the full 2.5 years, but during the time of us dating, he was raping me. I did not consent willingly. I consented in the fact that he was going to kill himself if I did not have sex with him. And I had a very hard time getting over this after realizing that I have been raped. There were even times where there was actual physical abuse rape, where he would come home drunk and he would force me to have sex with him and force me to give him a head, where he would take my head and shove it down until he got exactly what he wanted. And it was a very awful time. And at that point, I basically started to consider that I was maybe asexual because I didn't like having sex, but really it was just that I was being abused and that I was being raped. It took me a very long time to realize this afterwards, and it took me a very long time to feel any sexual attraction towards anyone when I did eventually get the chance to leave him. It's not always easy to leave situations, and it's not always safe. There are hotlines, and they will be provided in the description below, but you don't have to live every day in your tears and your guilt and fear and feel like you are crazy and feel like you're maybe too sensitive, and you don't need to keep apologizing, and you don't need to feel like you're constantly overreacting. It's them. It's not you. You shouldn't be in such turmoil. You'll be okay. It's not always easy to get out of them, and it's not always safe. I got lucky, and I was able to have a friend help me out of that situation. The breakup quite literally took a whole 2 months because he wouldn't let me leave him once I told him that I was done, he started lashing out. Like I mentioned, he made it worse on me. He called me names. He threatened more suicide. He threatened and made up lies about his family and that he loved me and he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me and everything was my fault. And I was the I was the bully and I was ruining his life. I made him miserable the past few years and he was just putting up with it. And now it's better for him if I do leave because I was abusing him. And he really took it out on me. And I had a really hard time recovering from this. And I want other people to know that it's not just you. They'll say these things to you. And yeah, you think maybe it's not all bad, you know? We had great memories. We did a lot of cool things. And they'll say all these things. They'll scream at you until 3 a.m. And then suddenly they'll be, hey, did you eat breakfast? Did you have lunch today? Do you want me to make you some food? I can cook for you. And you go, wait, maybe I am crazy. Maybe I made up that whole fight in my head. Was it just me? They always come up with some sort of did you eat thing. It's always about food because they can make themselves look like a good guy. They can either offer you food if you say no, or they can be like proud of you if you did eat. And it's always, you're crazy. I never yelled at you. I forgot about it by the next day. And now you're suffering, but it's not my fault. No one ever listens to the victim. No one ever listens to that call for help. They just blame you and say, well, did you deserve it? There's such a lack of empathy in this world, and abusers win far too often. I just want to be heard, and I just want to be seen, and I want to help other people to realize that they're not alone. And I want so many other women and men who are in narcissistic abusive relationships to get out and to get rid of that trauma and not suffer the way that I did, and hopefully find a safe place. I know that there's a lot of people suffering, a lot of friends of mine suffering, and in huge public news right now, popular Twitch streamer Amaranth is currently going through the same thing. And even still, people are blaming her for putting up with the abuse of her husband. It's never the victim's fault. It's the abuser, but everyone just blames the victim either way. I want this to be more clear, and I want people to have empathy, but it's so gone in this world, and no one will help you. You have to help yourself, and I wish more people would speak about their traumas, but everyone's too scared, and you'll get blamed for if they kill themselves. You'll get blamed for their abuse, and they'll put it on you, and you feel like a bad guy, and you end up having to go to therapy for years, and it's all your fault. I want to help people, and I want everyone else to be happy too. I'm safe now. I'm happy. I've never been healthier, but it's scary, and it's hard, and no one deserves to go through what I went through, and no one deserves to go through what they're going through. I'm lucky, and I survived, but in the end, nobody was listening to me anyway. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.